Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. I'm going to do a quick introduction, but let me give it one more minute. It's only 9:59. I'll start at 10 o'clock. Let the room fill up a little bit more.
Okay. Anna, could you let attendees in because I'm not watching the call screen?
Yeah, happy. I will do.
Great, thank you.
Okay, cool. So it's 10 o'clock. Thanks everyone for joining. I'm going to do a quick introduction to the speakers. We have Anu Reitenbach from Absolve. He's a CRO. And we have Bernard Ford, who's the regional manager of Acumatica in Africa. How to get the most of your Acumatica system in the first 90 days. Handing over to who's speaking next? Bernard.
I can start. Yeah, all good. So thanks, Sharon. Thanks for the intro. And morning, Anna. So just to give you guys some context, this is not a demonstration today. We're going to be chatting, Anna and I. And I think it's really super critical, important topic is, the first 90 days is kind of the critical period. And with Acumatica, as we'll hear, is probably nearly the full implementation. So it's really important to get that right. That sets the foundations for the successful implementation and the rollout of your Acumatica system. So we're going to keep it interactive as well. So please, guys, if you want to jump in and ask questions, do so. I guess should I kick off with this on just recap?
No, you can, for sure.
Yeah, okay. So we ran a webinar about 3 or 4 weeks ago talking about why you would move and how you could move to Acumatica from a legacy system in a period of 4 months or less. And I think, Anna, that's why you're on the call here, because Absolve have been one of the partners who really gets this right globally, of almost always super consistently implementing a successful complex system in 4 months or less. So it is the kind of the holy grail, because as you probably hear these horror stories of other ERPs that have taken years and they're bottomless pits. That's not what Acumatica is about. It's about rapid deployment, rapid implementation, and very fast return on investment. So I think the reason you moved to a product like Acumatica would be you used to run manual processes and you want to automate, and you want to follow best practice and automate those processes and do less manual stuff to get rid of the bottlenecks. You used to have a system when we started off with accounting systems where it was a system of record. So recording transactions was your whole daily grind. And it's moved to what we're calling a system of intelligence, where the system is there so that you understand what's going on and you understand immediately and proactively what is going on. And that's leveraging the new technologies like the AI and Acumatica to do that way better, right? So I think the old school was, recording things and getting it accurate. That goes without saying. It's more around, as I say, understanding your business. And that kind of follows into what you used to do was report, and you'd hopefully get your month-end stats out within a number of days or weeks and sometimes months, reporting what happened in the past, where it's moving to predicting what will happen with predictive analytics and real-time. So we call it continuous close, where your system is near real-time. Your bank is reconciled, everything's ticking over, and you can see exactly what's going on and predict what you need to make, what you need to buy, what you need to spend less on before you hit the problem. So I think that's what it's all about. That's why you moved to Acumatica. And I think let's move on to the topic, though. And I want to just, I suppose this is kind of before the 90 days. You're talking about, before you go live, that's where it all starts. So maybe, Anna, you want to talk us through getting prepared to move onto your system is part of the implementation. So maybe talk us through some of these points here.
And I think, Bernard, that is key, sort of a takeaway from our first chat, like I said, 3 weeks ago, is So you sort of went live. We have now quite a few use cases with multinationals, multi-entity groups going live within 3 to 4 months. And I think if you look at some of the challenges we're seeing in the market, I just came off a call last night with a prospect that's also, they're facing a challenge from a current ERP vendor where they basically, I don't know if we can call it sneaky or malicious, I don't know. So let's stick to being polite, sneaky, telling them that, listen, you need to sign a 3-year contract now with us. Your licensing has doubled in price in this case, the customer we spoke to yesterday, and doubled in price, and you've got 4 months to make a decision. So we're seeing a lot of customers backed into the corner, and we've built this methodology of being able to migrate you successfully, within a framework and a structure, but then there's also so that's the worst case scenario. That's almost like your business is being hijacked. You need to make a decision. Thank you for your card, type of thing. But in reality, there's also a lot of stuff that happens before we go live. And I think that leads into the topic for today is what happens in the first 30 days, and then what happens in the first 90 days, if you want to call it that. So there's definitely a lot of stuff that you need to build up to make sure that you have a successful go live. My team always jokes with me. I've got this analogy that I say, implementing an ERP is like doing open heart transplant without anesthesia. It's just fact. We rip the heart out of a business and we say, well, we promise we'll keep you alive. And then but that's what the structure requires. And so building up to that, we want to make sure that you're right. And I think we need to highlight those things that we discussed 3 weeks ago. The one thing is exactly the training of the users. So we've got Beacon now, which is great. The prospects now, funnily enough, because of Beacon, are phoning us saying, listen, we're already on Beacon. They were considering Acumatica. They're already going through the training. So I think from an Acumatica perspective, getting your user base familiar and with the online university as an alternative still, that is a key thing. Having that there. And
just to explain to the audience, so this is you don't need to be an Acumatica customer yet to get onto our open university and Beacon. Beacon is just the new modernized AI-powered use assistance and training portal. But the heart of it is training. Acumatica Online University, it used to be called, but it's available to you right now and it's free. And so there's no excuse really for not familiarizing yourself. And I think, Arno, you're seeing that as well, that when we talk to a prospect these days, they actually know a lot about Acumatica because they've done their research. They've looked at other products. Then they've probably come across things like Beacon and said, well, I'll log in. I can actually even download and install an Acumatica instance on my laptop and play around with it and do the training. So the people that are moving, it's not like 10 years ago where we, the publisher of the product like Acumatica and the VAR, the partner like Absol, we knew everything. Was 90% of the domain was ours, and the customer knew very little. That's completely changed. And I think it's a good change that we have this partnership model. I don't know if you want to maybe talk about, so the user buying into the product and the partnership aspect, I think is kind of a key thing.
Yeah, and that is, it's a trust relationship, right? So and I think Acumatica, even from a partner network perspective, I feel privileged to be part of this. It's almost like a group of friends, but you need to have this. The customer and the VAR or the implementation partner. There's a trust that gets developed during the sales cycle, which is key. Okay, but then there's that's the foundation. But now the foundation is sort of being reinforced through the implementation, and that relationship is strong because you're not going to let someone do a heart transplant, or the doctor. You would want to know them, So that's important. I think that relationship is key, but that relationship now needs to be maintained in the next 90 days. And I think also the Acumatica model, which I'm a big evangelist for. I think it's well known that I'm a big evangelist for it, but it drives certain behavior in the fact that we measured on how do we manage our customers, what do we know. So I think that relationship's key, and it has to stay in place, even before we go live. So if you look at this, what happens at the point of go live, which is really where we want to start the discussion for today, is
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of stuff that needs to happen. The relationship needs to be in place because we're going into a massively disruptive period for the business. Okay, so you're just going live.
Yeah.
Now, things will happen. You know, so with best intent, people forget. And I always say to my team after a sales cycle, I say, I will never put you on a ship that I think is going to sink. You know, so
Yeah.
I will never do this. But
Yeah.
we try and discover as much as we can. Okay,
Yeah.
but things pop up and
Yeah.
they creep out. So it's about saying
Yeah.
that up front and saying if something comes up, we're going to try our best to make. You know, as long as it's not a listen, I
Yeah.
was thinking I'm going to get this thing's going to fly me to the moon type of thing. Yeah, but it really is about that. So I think that
Yeah.
relationship's
Yeah.
key.
Yeah, and I
From
think what
that
you're saying,
perspective.
that's what, in terms of this list, I was going to ask you, like, which of these do you think the most important is? And I'll tell you which mine is, and it is number one. So the customer, that's, the prospect, the customer identifying, and us, the vendor and the VAR understanding the key needs. That's the key thing, because like you say, if you get, the key need is, it's like going for an operation. And when I broke my leg a few years ago, and they used to say, they joke with me, which leg are we amputating? Like, I said, my left leg is the one you're going to operate on, not my right. Don't do the wrong
Yeah.
leg. So I think
Yes.
identifying the key needs before is super critical, and it's something we all know, but and that's why you say when you do the handover from a sales cycle to the implementation, if those are properly identified, that's the key thing. It's not so much what pops up. Things pop up which are like, we thought this is the key need hasn't changed. How are we going to do it might change. But I think that key need identification is super critical. What do you think about on this list of getting ready, what do you think kind of the top two or three of those? I don't know. Anyone in the audience welcome to comment as well. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't think you want to make a choice between those three. I think it's not a race for a finisher. It's a race as to how does all three finish together. So it really is about that. I don't think at that point of go live. I think the last point I really want to touch on at this point is, and something that we're very candid with our customers for, is a delayed go live is not a failed go live. A failed go live is if things fail, your business collapses at that point in time. So UAT, within our practice, myself and other people, we have an independent look at, are we ready for go live, and is the business ready for go live? So that point at UAT is, if we say go, it's a go from us as a partner, but it's also a go from the customer.
Yeah.
If the
and that's
customer
what's called, I'm saying, UAT, user acceptance testing. So it's user acceptance testing, not VAR acceptance testing. So I think that's a really good point.
And I'm okay. I think it's to be professional enough and mature enough. If someone says I'm not going, right, for us to say we agree, you shouldn't go. And it's not a blame game at that point in time. It is we shouldn't go. You're not ready. I'm not ready. The system's not ready.
Don't move into the house until the house is ready.
No, exactly.
Exactly. So having said that, let's move on to the first 30 days. All right. So maybe take us through. As I reiterate, Honor and the Absolve team have been highly successful with lots and lots of these implementations, which I think a few years ago we thought 4 months was like super quick for a complex. I'm talking about a complex manufacturing, distribution, job shop engineering, those sort of complex multi-site, multi-branch, sometimes multi-country. Just which I know you've just done one that was a big multi-country complex implementation. Those in the old days, I would say, with the legacy ERPs, which were more clunky before Acumatica, would take us years. Or a year or 18 months would be normal. So so maybe take us through your methodology on through this the first 30 days and through these points here. That'll be useful.
Yeah. And I think, Bernard, what is key, what is becoming quite an interesting discussion, a discussion I had last night with some of my counterparts in the US, was it's not how quick we can implement this, how quickly the customer's business can run with us. So that's becoming the biggest hurdle now, and it's something you need to respect because their day job needs to continue. Okay, so often it is a 3-month effort spread over a 4-month period or a 5-month period, just purely because it's pointless if I run over the finish line and the guy that I'm supporting is way behind. That's not That is not it's not something you can avoid. But I'll quickly run just topically through it, and then we can dive into the detail. And I see a lot of familiar faces here who I appreciate being here. But the reality is this, right? So I think if you go live, it doesn't matter if it was a 6-month project, a project for a year, it's still an event, okay, that enforces change. Okay, so that change now needs to be implemented. And we've got a few things we try to do. I see one of our customers on here that we had quite an interesting discussion with last week. I think that they were actually our very first Acumatica customer. But the first 30 days after an implementation is, definitely things we do. We've got daily team check-ins. Now, the team being the team from the implementation partner and the team from the customer, right? So we have daily check-ins. It's a non-negotiable for us.
That's interesting, because how do you do daily? I know I've been on the implementation side of the fence. I thought I was good if I was doing a bi-weekly check-in, but how do you actually get that right? Because that's super good, I think. But how do you get that to happen? I mean,
we just enforce it, so the steer code drives it. So we've got an established steer code, we've got the top-down buy-in, and it's, I wouldn't say enforced, but the value is understood. And often that check-in is not an hour's meeting, because you don't want to consume time if it's not needed, So what typical go live is, anticipation, we go live, day 1, nothing happens. Day 2, someone clicks a button and something doesn't work. And then it's, that's sort of day 3, the real stuff starts happening. And then week 2, the big spike happens. But we just enforce it. We've got an end of day check-in. Also, when we contract from an Absol perspective, we've got clearly defined processes of what we expect after go live. So it's the customer is contractually bound to that. And it's not because it's a contract, it's because I am the professional here. So I'm giving advice that I know that works. So we put it in the contract. We say, listen, at the end of go live, we're going to have team check-ins, and we typically schedule it for half an hour. And we're just like, is there anything we need to discuss? Perfect. And it's a steerco level plus, so we've got management buy-in there. So it just happens daily. But we also, during the project, if you go to the third point, that weekly business health reviews, it is an extension of that, is to say, we want month end to happen daily. Okay, because otherwise go live is, everything's great, and then month end happens and we go, ooh, that was bad. So that's really, but the weekly business health reviews is key for us. So, are we seeing the efficiencies that we planned? Is anybody falling behind? Did we miss a vendor payment? What's happening? What does the warehouse look like? Is stock moving? Is it is there, is there any hiccups or hindrance in your business that's been caused by this change?
So my question, I'm thinking now, so we call this, what I was talking about here is continuous close, means your system's updated all the time. And then the weekly business health review, I think my question is, there's a fine line between trying to go live with all the bells and whistles, and continuous improvement evolution. So you get the key business needs must be satisfied for the go live to run the business. So how do you get that right? Because I see what does happen is the customer, rightly or wrongly, asks for things that they'd like to have, which are nice to have, but they're not necessarily the key need satisfiers. And then those things are done, but that actually detracts from the main, the main system. And so how do you manage that?
Great. So Bernard, it starts with the, from the implementation, and from the last discussion, we use familiar PM tools, so there's, unfortunately, I can drive a lot of the decisions within Absol. So I like a Moscow document, and for those familiar with the Moscow, it stands for must have, should have, could have, won't have. And our implementation methodology is clearly defined in having 2 playbacks and then going into UAT, so that the customer consistently views what we're building while we're building. And if they've got a requirement, it gets qualified. Okay. And nothing can get onto the Moscow or onto the decision register without it being saying, listen, this is accepted by the project sponsor, okay? And if it's a must-have, it must be part of the project. But it's also being brave enough to say this, if it's a should-have or a could-have, this will be phase 2, okay? And there's a funny rule that a good friend of mine once says, probably the most important thing in a project is the first no. And I've joked to some of my teams, I said, listen, I'll buy you lunch. And I have done it before. So I'll buy you lunch for the first guy that says no. And it's important. It's not just for the sake of saying no. It's for the sake of you're the professional advising a customer who's trusting you to change their business. Tell them no and tell them why not to say no. So that first no is important. And the sooner I've also been part of projects where we didn't say no. And I can tell you that the first no is important. So it's qualifying that, having a clear methodology as to how we classify what will end up in the production environment. How do we communicate with the customer from that perspective?
It's avoiding that scope creep. And I think that's right. Because if you say the opposite of that is saying yes to everything, and that's what my point was exactly that. So because a customer says, I need this, and you say, yes, can you do this? Yeah, we can do it. That's the scope creep coming in. And then you start losing focus of the key things we're supposed to be building. So I think that's a really good, what you just said is super important. It doesn't mean you're not going to do it. It means you're going to plan it and phase it in later. That's what you say. Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to quickly jump to the last one. I think that is a key one, which is probably what you're going to try and avoid. And I think on the next slide, I touch on it again. But, there's this trap that we need to avoid in the first 30 days. And that's falling back onto what we used to do. So this is normal, right? So what's going to happen is everything's going to run smoothly. Something's going to be a bit of a hiccup, and we're going to put a workaround in place, okay? And then, so right, we're going to get back to it, right? We never get back to it, okay? So the whole idea through this first 90 days, and what we structure, as critical care within our contractual approach, is we say, right, go live is important. The next 90 days are equally important, if not more so. And as part of the tracking is if we start putting workarounds in place to say, right, let's not let that become the norm, okay? Because what we often see is that becomes the norm. Person X who created this workaround now resigns. New person comes in, and the new person accepts it as, oh, that's just what the system does. And it's not the case, So if you start tracking this, I had an interesting chat with this one specific customer last week about how much manual reporting is done still, and should we not get all those manual reports back onto the system, because that's why you've got Acumatica. But because there's been staff changes and things happen, the workaround becomes the norm, and you lose the impetus of what happened at go live, so that urgency and the excitement of what we're going to get is away, and now it's just another system, and it's not. We've got a wonderful platform here that can automate almost anything, and so just get back to the workarounds. But I think that also speaks to the clear accountability and ownership, which is, again, it's a team effort. So yes, we know the stuff will happen. We are prepared for it. We had a continuity plan if the project is big enough, and you can fall back on the continuity plan, get a workaround in place, and all of those sexy things that we try to avoid. But the reality is, if there's no accountability after go live, that's a problem. So the accountability here doesn't mean just you are responsible for X, Y, and Z. It means that you will ensure that the project objective is seen through, specifically in these first 90 days. If you look at forming a new habit, I'm not an expert at it, but I think it takes something like 21 days to form a new habit type of thing. So consistently doing what is required through a change for the first 90 days is key, because then it becomes habit. And if no one is accountable and ownership is not assigned to that, it's not going to happen. And people are people.
That's right. So again, I like analogies. I was thinking it's a bit like you've been trained a pilot. So you've been trained on a certain aircraft, and it's your first flight in the aircraft. You're in charge. You're flying the aircraft. Sitting next to you is Absolve team to help you if you say, well, I've forgotten how to switch on this, whatever. And they help you, but your accountability doesn't change. I think that's a super critical success factor is ownership and accountability on the customer side. So you're flying the plane, now it's your plane. And I think the first 30 days, I'm guessing the objective is get through month end. Is that what the kind of objective is, to get through that first month end?
I think that's the I wouldn't say it's the objective. That's sort of like a step in the objective, So I wouldn't make that as the end goal, because what we're seeing is a lot of month end is a finance activity. Let's be brutally honest. Often, but ERPs aren't finance systems anymore. It's a digital twin, like you often say. So it is making sure that the key things that is required to run the warehouse, the key things that are required to run an effective supply chain. One customer of ours, when I met the owner again last week, I just got reminded about how they manage their order book, and it was the first time in my life where, the owner just doesn't care about the finances. All he does, he looks at the order book, says, what's the inbound orders? How quickly am I getting it out? That's all he wants to know. And it completely changed. So can that business, in this case, manage their order book effectively? And if they can't, you failed. Not failed, but I mean, then you need to not fall back on the workaround, get the workaround so that they can make the decisions they need, and then take it away. But I think that also speaks to, when we go live, what dashboards and BI monitoring tools, which is native in Acumatica, are we going to monitor? So when we do the sales pitch, we would go in, listen, look at Acumatica. This is a fantastic tool. It's got this BI real-time analytics platform that you can utilize, and we show them all the fancy AI things. And when we go live, no one looks at the dashboard, and that's not what you want. As part of our training process, we say, listen, you are the procurement head. This is your dashboard. When you walk in the morning, we're going to see stuff that are red. We love red stuff in the morning. We want you to work on the red stuff. By the time you go home, it needs to be green. And then if that dashboard is associated to someone, like a role, that, creates that inheritance of accountability and ownership, which really is why we do this, right? I think Bernard and myself, we joked yesterday, we're probably the two people who don't need encouragement to talk. But the reality is, we like what we do. It's a privilege for us to see all these businesses that we see, and for business owners to expose their trade secrets. And, I learn every day type of thing. So, but the reality is that dashboard that is critical at Go Live is where I want to start, because if the business is still running reports to make the decisions, not failed, but did you really evolve? No. Because the dashboard is the first step into, if you look at the AI adoption, which Bernard, you can probably dive into a little bit, but if the data is not structured in a sensible manner, you're not going to get any benefits from AI. So I really think, that first 30 days, yes, month end is key, but every day is important. So it is a continued.
I think I've been in ERP a long time, and I think, if you go back 10 years or 15 years, month end was the thing, and I think that has changed. So I'm actually speaking against what I was saying. Is continuous close is the way we do it now, where, as you say, things are rectified immediately. The dashboard turns amber or red. You jump in and fix it, change it, address it, and your bank has been reconciled every day because you connected online with your bank, and it's reconciling itself. And there's not a lot. So your month end is actually not a big episode, as Anna is pointing out to me, which is quite correct. But yeah. So I think should we move ahead to the next period, which is like the 31 to 90. We're talking about the 90 days. So after that first month, what is the kind of focus now?
So big focus here is, like I said at the bottom, don't fall back into bad habits. Okay, so that's what we're trying to avoid. Okay, so you've got this wonderful new application, and you've successfully done month end, and you've survived it, and now people are getting used to it. All the chocolates that you gave away when you went live as gifts, they're all eaten, but now we're going to start falling back into bad habits. That's why we don't classify critical care as Absolve as a 30-day period. It's a 90-day period. Okay, so we've got it in the contract, 3 months of critical care. Right, so now we've got this list, and the one list which the customer who's on the call is probably giggling when I say this, but one thing that I really feel we can get better at is tracking manual reports. So that's one thing we immediately started doing now, is to say, listen, is there manual reports we want to have in that 90 period? What reports are we still doing manually is going on? But we want to find solutions for workarounds. Okay, now so that's the first thing. The second thing is, yes, we've been monitoring the dashboards to make sure things happen effectively, operations is running efficiently. Now that dashboard is not a dashboard anymore. I want to start measuring against reactions to trigger events on my dashboard. So I want to put KPIs in place. So if a customer order is overdue, we've not delivered, okay? Yes, it's great. We can see it's overdue. But what happens now? So there's an owner on that sales order that needs to ship it to see how many of the orders is being shipped late and what's the reason. So now we start measuring based on the data. Okay, the off-system register, it was an eye-opener for me last week, and I can't believe we didn't think of it earlier. Is, you know, what happens off-system? This specific customer's been live now for over 5 years, and we're seeing a lot of report duplication, not because they're bad at what they do. In fact, they're brilliant at what they do. You know, it's one of the best run businesses I've seen in my life. And it's just, it happens, you know. So now what happens is one person does the report, another person does the report that has one additional data element. It's all on Excel, but 90% of the report is already done by another person. So we want to have an off-system register, make sure the reporting, what is happening off-system and shouldn't it be on the system? We're looking for continuous improvement, okay, and then user adoption and continuous training. Go live is not an event that finishes, you know. I finally realized my dad's was right his entire life. You never arrive, you know. So it's there's not a day that you arrive and everything's done. Go live, it's not everything's done. It's the start of the next steps. So you're going to have to continuously adopt, continuously improve, continuously train, because I think we did a. And Bernard, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, 2026 R1 had 1,000 new features.
Yeah, that's
what,
right.
Like what?
1,000
things.
Features.
Yeah. So it's a lot. And now, very importantly, because we've got this platform, is how do we identify places for automation and AI adoption? Okay. So our opinion and approach is definitely not. It's an AI in mind or automation in mind, and look at what we can get at Go Live. And I think, Bernard, maybe you can jump into a bit here if you want to, or from a systems perspective, you know, just to look at what we can do from an AI perspective at the moment.
Yeah, and I'll because I think we're well on time here, so I'll maybe even show you guys some stuff in terms of what we're talking about, but I'll explain it first without jumping around on the screens here. But yeah, I'd like to even show you some of these examples. But so this is all new. I mean, AI has been around for you know, for most of us for say 3 or 4 years maximum. It started off with queries, you know, LLM being used for like a type of Google, very advanced Google search, saying, you know, tell me, explain this to me, or do that, or to chat with, etc. And what it's morphed into now is what we have in Acumatica now. These are the tools we have right now available. Is built-in AI assistance, so the built-in LLMs inside of Acumatica, where you can now do stuff like, and I'll show you if we've got some time shortly, but you can actually ask a question around what item is making the least gross margin in the month of March 2026. Which give me the top 3, the worst 3 items in terms of gross margin, and it'll immediately give you that. Not only give it to you, but it'll pull up a dashboard chart, which we used to have to go and do manually. It'll give you the chart. You can even say, place this chart on the dashboard. The thing you just generate, the AI is just generated on the fly. So this AI assistance is phenomenal, and it kind of moves away from reports. So it means, again, this is going to speed up. I'm actually going to be talking around AI assisted implementation next week or the week after in Denver, Colorado, with the US teams. And we're doing a lot of this pioneering work here in South Africa, using AI to assist us with implementation. But on your side, being the customer side of the fence, you're using AI in Acumatica to automate. And the things that are useful, as I say, assistance is very useful. Which expense item is burning the most cash for a certain period? You can ask, and the AI will tell you immediately. This is your marketing and your travel expenses are burning your cash. And you say to the AI, well, how can I rectify that? Okay, I might say, well, stop traveling and do less marketing. But it'll probably give you better advice than that. But the point is, you've got this immediate AI assistant. The other thing that we do in Acumatica is what we call the BYO, bring your own AI, and that plugs in securely into Acumatica to do automation. So automation is an example. If I've got time, I'll show you some of these, but automation example might be reprice my inventory based on a change in the cost. And you tell the AI, listen, look at my cost, my most recent cost, and on the fly, or when I tell you to, or whenever whatever you tell the LLM to do, change my selling price with the suggested margin that I've put into the Acumatica profile of the inventory item or non-stock item. That's an automation that you'd have to do a development customization 6 months ago, where you can just prompt the AI in plain English and say, just do this, right? Or write me a summary report on a project. I want to know what tasks are overdue. Give me a high level and do it in a kind of format I can just glance at and see exactly what's going on with the things I've asked you to notify me on. So no more report, no more dashboard, in fact. You just push the button, that we call it the LLM automation, push the button, and it'll generate the information you're asking for on the fly. So it could also, so automation includes doing things that you used to do manually, and also showing you information in a format that's digestible and understandable. But there's a new level of automation now, which we call MCP, which is orchestrating things inside and outside of the ERP. So that's getting down to things like capturing data, but it's the computer doing it. It's the AI capturing the data, or changing things using the system as a person would, but it's actually an AI agent. So this is all new stuff, but it's real. We ran a webinar yesterday on this topic specifically. It's real, and I think the takeaway is in your first 30 to 90 days with Acumatica, because it has these tools, start using them. We've got a tool called anomaly detection that's actually been with us for 3 years. It's a machine learning AI tool, which is probably the most underutilized thing in Acumatica. But what is an anomaly? An anomaly is something unusual. What is an exception report? You know what that is. So the old school way was exception reports and dashboards. Maybe the better way is to also blend that with anomaly detection, saying, just show me unusual things, like if there's an expense going into marketing that's suddenly over 100,000 Rand, we don't normally spend that, it'll flag it, and it'll flag it for someone's attention. So again, it's catching these things as they occur in that case, or predict something if it's predictive anomalies. Like, what, you suddenly got a massive surge in your sales order demand that's not normal. So there's a fair chance your production center is not ready for this. That's anomalous. So that would be flagged. So there's something unusual that's happening here. Here's a heads up. That's what AI is doing. So I think, that's my take on it. I think it's super important. I think it's early days. People are scared of it. It's not being adopted as quickly as it maybe should. I personally have jumped in, and AI crazy, I say, and maybe I am crazy, but I find it very useful when the AI can do something for me in seconds or minutes that used to take me hours and days. But that's my take. So I know that's my take on it, and we'll see how we go. If we've got some time, I'll show you some of these things if you want to have a look.
And I think I've tried to answer some questions that's been raised in the chat, but I think most of the AI functionality now is available in 2026 R1 onwards. Okay, and that's really where it starts living. Obviously, you have to be on new product to have access to it. So that's also true. We've been jokingly, but I think that same thing with great power comes great responsibility type of joke, but it is true. You need to use it sensibly. I don't know. There's an article that got my attention yesterday that EY, Ernst & Young, was hacked and leaked tax information, and so you need to be respectful of data. Data is an asset for businesses, and I think that's a big thing. The moment organizations are realizing that data is an asset. We had a meeting 2 weeks ago with an organization already on Acumatica saying that they are seeing the benefit of being a data-driven management team. So they don't care about your emotions. They still do care about your emotions, but they want to see the data behind your emotions, and it really makes sense. So that is important. And then
Yeah,
Cameron,
I think on that point, on if I could jump in there, we were talking about this yesterday. So with Acumatica specifically, so the questions around availability, yeah, there's 4 or 5 of these tools that are available now, and there's going to be a lot of AI release in 2026 R2. But having said all that, here's the key thing. The internal AI in Acumatica, your data is 100% inside there, and the tools that we're using as Acumatica, we're using OpenAI, Claude, Anthropic, etc. But we're using those closed shop. They're inside Acumatica. Your data is not moving out to anything. Okay, those are OEM'd into Acumatica, those tools. So we're using these powerful AI LLMs and agents inside Acumatica. So they're 100%. Your data is your data. It's inside that box, okay, that Acumatica secure box. The other piece for the BI, bring your own. Now, there the power is immense, because now you're connecting Acumatica seamlessly through a secure connection, albeit secure connection, to Anthropic or to OpenAI or to Grok or to Azure AI, whatever it is, okay? So the analogy again is, you're now giving your data. It's a bit like in the old school. Do you trust your auditors? Do you trust your lawyer? Would you give them all your financials and all your trade secrets in a document? Well, yes, you might, because you trust them and you want them to help you. You've got a lawyer working on something with you. You've got your auditors working with you. So you trust them. Now think of the AI agent exactly as that, except they're not a human person. They're an AI person. You need to have the guardrails and trust with the tool you choose. And Acumatica doesn't choose that for you. So if you choose to use OpenAI, you obviously trust it as a platform, but OpenAI can release your data to the world. It's allowed to. You might tell it to. So you've got to make sure that you've got the guardrails in your instance of your AI agent, with the guardrails saying, this is secure data. To access it, you need a client secret and get through everything that's impossible to access unless you've got the rights to. And you don't give this data to anyone. It's not used for any public consumption or anything else. So those are the two. You trust your AI provider, and then trust that you've got the guardrails in place in your AI instance. Given all that, it's super powerful. So you can either be fearful of it and say, we're never going to do this, and then you're going to be kind of left behind the curve in terms of efficiency, or you've got to bite the bullet and say, right, let's get with the program and let's choose an AI that we trust, and B, let's ensure that the way we're using it is secure, as Arno said, used sensibly. Okay. So if you do something that's not that sensible and you're using an AI I've never heard of, it comes from some other country or known countries, but it's something that it's cheap, it's free, it looks great, but actually they're taking all your data. Okay, that's what you've got to be careful of. Acumatica is not going to make that decision. We're saying we've got these connectors to quickly and securely connect Acumatica to your AI so that you can leverage the power. So I think that's my kind of take on it is, don't wait too long to start using these things, and you'll be surprised how easy it is to do. So start on that before the 90 days list. We had start dreaming. With AI, you can actually dream. I've built things that I thought a year ago, I thought I'll never be able to do these things. I'm not that technical at all. I'm not a programmer, but I'm writing these powerful tools that do things, and I think it's not me doing it. I'm just prompting the AI to do it for me, and it's doing it very quickly and cheaply. It's costing me a couple of dollars to do something that would take tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of rand a few years ago, and it works and it's good. So I think those are my takes on AI automation. But I'm not watching the call screen. Are there any other questions? And if you want, if you guys who'd like to see some of the stuff, we don't have to do it now, but happy to do that. I'll unshare my screen.
I think I've just there's been a few questions which I've tried to answer in the chat, and I think definitely there's a question, maybe a quick from Rael to see if we if you show a bit of the AI features. I think it'll be beneficial, and I think Bernard, just always there's a few things here that's key to highlight. If you're on a new product, Acumatica now gives you, for a 1-year contract term, not a contract term, gives you free access to some of the AI features. So you can go try and test it, which actually gives you a head start. Because you can teach your AI model to understand your data, for free for a year. And then once you're hooked on this drug, then you start paying. But you need to just be aware of that. But yeah, I think if you can show maybe just a quick overview from that perspective, I think just from our side, just not obviously the key thing for us is the go live is a start. The next 90 days is critical. Okay. And I think what Bernard and myself really agree on is, don't fall back into what you used to do, because then you should have just stayed where you were, type of thing, so make sure that during that first 90 days, you establish good new habits, and that it's monitored and controlled. Don't think go live and we're done. It's go live right now, the race starts. Type of thing. So so there's definitely a need, I think, to show some AI features and maybe some automation features, if you can.
I'm
and then
just
we could wrap it up maybe in 10 minutes.
Acumatica, I'll try. I'm just trying to, I don't know. I'm logging into my Acumatica instance here. It normally goes in immediately because I want to show it to you. It's waiting. It's nearly in. Just give me a second. I won't share my screen until I've logged in.
No worries.
Yeah. But all good. I can probably share now. Myself back here. Screen should be sharing now.
It is.
It's coming up. Okay, so I'm just busy logging in. Just give me a sec to log in. While it's logging in there, so we go. This is Acumatica, my instance that I'm going into here. But while that's happening, you'll see this is my AI I use for myself, and I'm using it to do things automatically for my job. Okay, so my job is involved in sales, and I've automated. This is connected to Acumatica. This is outside of Acumatica, but I'm connected, for example, to the help in Acumatica, so that I can use this to do things like, there's RFIs. I'm busy doing some RFIs right now, where we answer all these questions that you guys put together, but I use AI to analyze it, and it's giving me an RFI answer. It'll do a full 500 questions in half an hour, but with all the the context I'm giving it. So I'm saying this company is called, I was doing a real one. This is what the USA I was doing last night. They're a construction company. They're called Harman. I'll give it some briefing notes. I'll give it some context. I'll tell it to be pessimistic or optimistic in the answers. And then I literally upload the sheet here, and it starts answering. Okay, so that's AI automation work in my job that I'm using. I can do all sorts of things here. I can generate battle cards, which I think is to say, you guys are going manufacturing, and you want to compare Acumatica against something like Syspro and Sage X3, and you're in South Africa, and you've got some operations in Southern Africa. Again, I'll give it some context, and I can literally, generate a comparative between the products on the fly. And this is using AI to do things that I, for my job, where in the old days I couldn't do this. It's like it would take me too long to generate a comparative specific to, I haven't put some details, but normally I'd say, this is what we do. Give me a comparative. Okay, that's done it. So this is powerful because it's on, and this is being honest. I'm saying I want to know how good we are. I want to know where they're strong against us, for example. Okay, but let's go back to my Acumatica here. All right. So very quickly, what I was talking about here is the AI assistant stuff is inside Acumatica, and to speed it up, I'll show you, because I know I did a query yesterday exactly on what I was talking about. I said, what was the worst performing inventory item by gross margin? I think I was talking about in June 2025. It answered, your worst performing inventory item was this. Okay, it was the Genie Scissor Lift Aerial, but it also gave me some more. It said, but the 5 items, just in case you're interested, are these. That's the worst one. These are the others. And it gave me a notable finding. It says, there's a different pattern. Something happened here. There's a negative margin. Maybe it was a return. Maybe something else happened. So it says, check that out. Then it did this. Remember I said you can take a graph. Here's a dashboard. In the old school, there's a nice dashboard, sales by month. Here's an instantly generated dashboard widget. And I can say, yeah, let's stick that on a dashboard. And I say view chart. It's now taking what I've done on the fly, which it did in, it took about 30 seconds to do all this. And it's going to give me that chart with all the drill downs, and just like it would be on a dashboard. Okay. but it's on the fly. So you can see here, there's my, move this thing out of the way a little bit. There's my dashboard with the drill downs. Yeah, so if I can click there, it'll take me into the data underlying this dashboard widget. So AI assistance is super useful. You can see other questions I've asked it in the past might be around, give me my 3 most unprofitable projects. Okay, so that's assistance from Acumatica, which is super useful because it's everything you'd love, everything we've dreamt of. You know, give me my 3 most unprofitable projects. AI comes up with this very nice. I didn't say give the following columns. The AI is clear enough to know, yeah, let's give Bernard project description, status, revenue to date, expense to date, GP, and margin. That's useful. And some observations to make it even nicer, and a chart. Yeah, there's that old chart. And follow-up questions. So you'll see the AI prompts the follow-up questions, like it'll say, why don't you ask this now? Let's go to the bottom here. You'll see, hopefully, I'm not going to run this now. Yeah. What was the total warranty cost for this thing? Because while that thing lost so much money, well, show me all the transactions for this company who bought it, or which had the largest negative margins this year. So these are repeat questions that the AI is prompting me to ask, which I can or not. Okay, so that's one side. The other side of it is this engine here. This is called This is where you're connecting your favorite LLM to Acumatica. All right. So how we connect it is very quick and easy. So I'll go into, let's take one of these things, case evaluation, okay? So that's a CRM thing. And I've got a prompt here that says, you write the case evaluation once I've completed a case log. A case log might be product problem, billing problem, incident, whatever it is, okay? This is how the prompts work in Acumatica. Case evaluation is a prompt name. There's my LLM connection. I'm using OpenAI in this case, but it could be any AI. The screen, the button goes on. In Acumatica, every screen's got a number. You can see that screen is that one. My screen is cases, makes sense. And there's my prompt. It says, you're a technical support. I'm talking to the AI. So you, the AI agent, are a document specialist. I want you to write a structured, professional case closure note. And at the bottom, I want to tell me and the customer what we did wrong and what they did wrong. I want you to put a big smiley face on it as well. Okay. So that, I'll show it to you quickly. That automation will be on a case. There's a case there. It's called credit hold inquiry. And it's one that a credit hold inquiry means Acumatica automatically put a customer on credit hold because it can. Okay. That's standard Acumatica. So if someone's over a credit limit, put them on credit hold. Okay. Then send them a mail, which it did. So it sends a mail automatically. It says email. Credit holding on your system's on hold. Okay. I get involved as an agent now, so as a human agent. Okay, the case comes to me, it says, Bernard, please won't you sort this guy out? Okay, his name's Alan. He works for Veracity Credit Consultants. I have a meeting with him. I have a Teams meeting with him. I have another meeting with product because he said the product was faulty. That's why we didn't pay. We then had an argument. Okay, then there's an automatic tracking and Acumatica tracking those mails. And then Alan called me and says he's very upset. He says I was rude. Okay, but he paid. And the closure note on this case, I say, all good, sorted out, okay? He paid. That's my closure note. If I click this button, so I can say, that's how I do it as a human. But if I click this button, generate case closure note, it's going to use that LLM to generate a professional summary of what happened, looking at those activities. That I've said to the AI, look at the activities, because that's a cool thing in Acumatica. Now use them to draft a quick report of what happened on this case. Tell me what we did wrong. Be honest. Tell me what the customer did wrong, if anything. And there it is. Okay. Problem type. What we did wrong. The activity log states the customer called and was very upset. Reporting the representative was rude. That's me. Based on the document activity, the handling should be included in a more empathetic response. If we should explain what was wrong. What the customer did wrong. Well, they were also rude. The customer expressed frustration. And no. It says they weren't abusive at all. It was actually me. Non-payment, missing documentation. So this is a case closure automation. I'll show you one more quickly. We okay for time? I'll show you one last one, which is quite nice. So let's take a project. And I was talking about that using AI to summarize something that you couldn't do in the past, right? So let's go to a project here. And I've got an AI here, LLM, connected that says, look at the project and give me a summary of where we're sitting on this project from a task overdue point of view, from a where we're going over our overages on this project. So imagine this is an implementation. Where we're going over, what are we late on? What's not critical on this project, right? And I've stuck that into this container here called AI recommendation. So I say AI analysis and recommendation for this project, right? So this, you'll see on a project, you've got costs and budgets, and you've got balances going, you know, what are we doing? You can look at this, but my brain doesn't digest when I just look at all this stuff. I say, oh, like, how do I know what's over here? I can't, yeah, it's got it on it. This is like a report, but hang on, let's do it a better way. So run this AI automation. This will take about 30 seconds. It's quite a big job it's doing here. It's going through all the project stuff, and it's coming up with the stuff I've asked for, which is like, tell me the highlights of what's going good and bad on this project, where we're over, alert me to things which we're not doing. This is a construction project. So it's going to, you'll see it'll say things like, you haven't done weather, you never do your weather report. So maybe a delay was caused by weather, but I don't know because you never did a weather report. Why don't you do one? I think this is the one that'll tell me that. Why don't you do a weather, do your weather checks in Acumatica, which you can do on your mobile phone, but you're not doing it, okay? But there we go. So project budget, so it says here, task, cost, budget. So this is easier. It just tells me what I want to know, not what I don't need to see. If I look at this, I don't know what's going on. I look at this, I know what's going on. There's the problem. That's good. Down the bottom here, project, it says here, unable to access weather-related because you didn't do it, okay? So it says recommendations, do this, do that, follow-up item, do this. So it's giving me useful information quickly. And this is literally done with an AI prompt. If you don't believe me, I'll show it to you. LLM prompts. And these prompts, okay, here's an interesting thing. These prompts are reasonably easy to do because they're in English, but let's take, this is the one, I think it's this one. So the prompts are reasonably easy to do, but guess what I did? I said, no, to write this thing here, okay, I want an AI to do that for me as well. So I did that. I built this thing myself for myself, okay? I've got this thing here called Prompt Author. Connected to my Acumatica, this is my demo instance. I can say to the prompt author, here's an example, summarize the sales opportunity and suggest best action for the sales rep. That's it. I could type it in here, I could record my voice. And then I say to my AI, suggest the configuration. Now I've trained my AI to do this. How I trained, I said, look at Acumatica and look how they do it, these clever guys. Now you do it. And I say, apply this configuration to my form. That's done it. And now I say, generate prompts. Now I copy and paste them into Acumatica. Takes me, this took me how long? 10 seconds. Normally this would take you, a couple of hours. But I'm using an AI outside of Acumatica to do something for Acumatica. There's my prompts. And I can click a button, write to Acumatica, or copy paste. Yeah, copy. I'll do it. I won't save it. Control V, paste. There we go. Save. I won't save it because I'll mess up this prompt. You get what's happening. So I'm personally using this power of Acumatica, and I'm not scared of using an external tool to do something clever for me like this. Why not? And this is to develop this tool. I just said to the AI, hey, I want to do the prompt automation. I said, what are you talking about? I said, well, have a look at Acumatica and look at all their notes, okay? How to write a prompt. And it said, cool. And it built this thing for me. Had a few backwards and forwards, not many. So this is the type of thing that I kind of hoping that's sort of opening your eyes a bit in terms of what we can do. I'll hop back to my PowerPoint here. I think we've kind of done on time. Any questions on that stuff I was showing you? Any comments or questions on that?
So I've tried to answer some of the questions in the chat. If there's anything else, I think you're welcome to ask or reach out. Knowing Bernard and knowing my diary, I think most of us will need to connection to a local LLM. Is it possible? Yes, well, it is.
Yes. Yeah, it is. Yeah, so things like local LLMs might be Claude on your desktop Claude or those sort of things. Yes, and there's an element.
There's another question. Can you get AI to match payments or recon items? So matching payments should be a standard functionality in Acumatica, right? So that's, you should utilize the standard features.
Yeah.
So that's there. Can it recon items? Yes. And then obviously if you start orchestrating it, you can actually
yes.
you can actually execute the
You can.
reconciliation.
And then, so yesterday, Doug Johnson was on the webinar with me, and Doug is senior SVP. He's senior guy at Acumatica. He's been with Acumatica forever, and he is head of the whole pre-sales team. He was showing using MCP server, which I haven't even touched on here. And MCP is the kind of not to say next level. It's just an alternative to using LLM to do things like orchestrate and do things that you used to do manually, like reconciling, like matching, like updating things, but using a thing called the MCP, which means Model Context Protocol, which means nothing, but that's what it stands for. MCP server is an AI. So those technologies are available. So the LLM connectors are available. AI Assist is coming next to Acumatica. I think is AI Assist. You maybe know better than me, Arno. Are you deploying AI Assist anywhere live yet, or not yet?
Oh, yes, yeah. No, we definitely are. So, but I definitely think it is available.
Yeah. Anomaly detection's been there a long time. It's there. So machine learning. And by the way, when you analyze the data in Acumatica, it's all coming through a generic comparison. I think we're out of time, so I'll stop there. But please mail Arno, myself, with any follow-up questions, or if you'd like to see something, we're happy to.
Or if you have an existing VAR supporting you, speak to your VAR. This is well-published information.
Yeah, exactly. So wherever your VAR is, we work as a team, all of us. So speak to them or myself or Arno if he's your VAR. So I think on that note, we're done. We're on the dot 11. So thank you so much for your time today, everyone. Thanks, Arno.
Perfect. Thanks, Bernard. Chat soon. Bye-bye.
See you soon. Cheers.